Good evening. We've got a call to order the Committee of Infrastructure. This is December 5th, 2019, in the Automatic Chamber, and the time is 7 p.m. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman, Alderman at Large, Michael O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Tom Lopez. Here. Alderman Jan Schmidt is here. Alderman Ernest Jetty. Here. Alderman Kedgidge is not here.
Okay. Also in attendance, we have David Fredette, Treasurer and Tax Collector, and Mr. Cummings is also here from the Downtown Association, so got the Economic Development. Thank you, Mr. Cummings.
That's what we meant.
At this particular time, open up to public comment. Seeing nobody in the audience, we can void that. Communications.
Communications, we have none.
Unfinished business.
We have none.
New business resolutions.
None.
New business ordinances. Before us this evening is 019-065. The prime sponsor is Alderman at Large Laurie Wilshire. Received a phone call from her saying that she's unable to make it tonight due to important personal matters and would like to have the item tabled so it could be brought up in the next session of the Infrastructure Committee. So seeing that, I'll call for a motion to table.
I'd recommend table, please.
Okay. The motion before us is to table 019-065. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. To the clerk.
We have ordinance 19-066, removing the 15-minute parking time limit on a portion of the east side of Walnut Street. I would move to recommend final passage.
Okay. Also with us tonight is Director Cummings. If you want to come up with this, because I do have, give me a segue into other communications that you may want to discuss. Okay. Alderman Lopez, would you like to speak, seeing this is your motion?
Yep, so this is the same parking spaces that I was attempting to have the 15-minute parking thing removed on since September when Rise did the ribbon cutting on their barber shop. The 15-minute parking spaces were there just because it used to be a cab stand. The cab stand is gone. The original legislation that I requested was prepared for the wrong side of the street and was a 20-minute parking zone. We didn't actually notice that until Alderman Jetty read it and noticed it. But my objection to tabling it, as was the committee's intent, was that it's only 2 parking spaces and it directly affects the employer and really nobody else. So hopefully now that we have this corrected, it'll be easier to pass.
All right. Alderman Schmidt.
Other parking areas in that space, other spaces, what are their time limits?
There's 2 parking spaces in that segment of street, and they're the ones with the 15-minute.
On the other side of the street, what's the time limit?
The opposite side is the 20-minute ones that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks.
Thanks.
I do have a further question. You're supporting this for the Rise Barber Shop, which I can understand. Is there adjacent businesses that are also within this parking area?
There's a nearby store. It's not exactly adjacent because there's a apartment building in the middle of it.
Then follow up with it, Alderman. Like if you put a stop sign in a neighborhood, somebody that petitioned you for the stop sign, they definitely want it. But then you come to find out other neighbors around may be somewhat upset.
You mentioned this last time, and I talked to the store owner again. I'm in pretty regular contact with them because they're between literally this meeting and where I live, and they don't have a problem with it.
They don't have a problem? Okay.
Nope.
I know, Alderman Jetty.
Yeah, this is Alderman Lopez's ward and his people, and I'm not going to second guess him about it, but it's more than 2 parking spaces. It goes from West Pearl Street all the way to Cedar Street, and it's 15-minute parking that whole length there. I just want to clarify we're talking about more than just the 2 parking spots, and I don't want to. I don't want to, stop him from doing what he thinks should be done there, but after we remove the 15-minute time limit, what are we going to be left with? Is there going to be any limit on parking there? And I bring that up as I did the last time, Alderman Lopez, because I know what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to allow customers of the barber shop to park there long enough to get a haircut. But if there is no parking limit at all, then somebody can park there for the whole day, take up your shop's parking spots, and they'll be you won't accomplish your purpose. So
If that presents itself, though, we are in the middle of doing the parking study, so the parking study would make a suggestion about regulation. And Director Cummings has told me just before this meeting that that's likely to be done in about 2 months. So we can help the barber shop now, and then if it turns out to be a problem, we can revisit it.
And this is a perfect segue, if I may, just for a second, Mr. Cummings. But on this particular item, where I am, I'm going to have Mr. Cummings speak on this, but I'm kind of holding back a bit because what we do, come up with a decision tonight, may in a couple of months or whenever this parking study comes to fruition and completion, what we do tonight may change. And as I don't want to give the people thinking that the government's wishy-washy or whatever, I would be more inclined to leave it to the status quo and make the one change upon the recommendation of the parking study. So this is a perfect segue to Director Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. So just very briefly, relative to where we are with the downtown parking management study. So since I was last before you, it was prior to the escrow process. We escrowed the money, set it aside. We issued an RFP requesting proposals from qualified vendors to help us manage our parking in the city better. We got responses back from 4 different firms. There's been a steering committee of internal city staff that interviewed all 4 firms. Those interviews actually occurred within the last 2 weeks. All firms were very reputable. It has been now shortlisted to 2 firms where we're going to be interviewing again the firms. I'm hoping the 3rd week of December or in that time frame right before the holiday break is what I'm hoping for. I'd like to further refine the scope to make sure we can make an apples to apples comparison on the price. Ideally, do contracting in January, get them underway end of January, and then I just want to make sure it's clear it's going to be an approximate 6 months, not 2 months, 6 months before we get the report back. That's all been part of the timeline that I originally sketched out for folks, which means you're really not going to get direction till early summer of 2020. And this area is being studied. I can only tell you that it is my opinion that there will be very specific comments, recommendations, observations, strategies for regulating this whole area, because this area now has on-street parking on it, and that's something that has recently developed within the last year and a half, 2 years, and this is called out as an area that we want to make sure we understand how it should be properly regulated. I'll also just take the opportunity to note that absent any direction in this area on how to regulate it, it will be an unregulated area, and you could leave vehicles there for however length of time you want during the day. And it supports the whole corridor. It supports, this is the future home of Penachuk. This is a pizza shop. There's a very popular breakfast place down in through here. There's a very popular hardware store in through here. So I wouldn't want you to think of it specifically for just servicing the frontage of these merchants here, and they're all very reputable. You got a local convenience store, you have a barber shop, you have an automotive tire use over here. This is valuable real estate. So, I guess I'll just conclude my comments by saying, in my opinion and my recommendation, without further direction as to how you'd like to regulate this area, I would not at this time make any changes.
Alderman Schmidt?
Tell me about the new parking around Walnut Oval.
Yeah.
Is it
Yep.
timed, and is there charges? Just parking?
So, so if I may, Mr. Chairman, what Alderman
Yes, you may.
what Alderwoman Schmidt is basically suggesting is what would occur if you were to take action tonight along here, which is occurring right along here, which is there's a new on-street parking that was added, and we did not at that time meter or regulate this area, and so therefore you can leave your car here for an indefinite period of time, which is causing angst for this neighborhood. This is not a condition I would recommend, and that's one of the reasons why we called out this area to be studied to see how best it should be regulated. What type of zone it should be in, how much money should we be charging, what type of turnover should we be looking for, how do you want to collect the revenue through meter, kiosk, whatever the case may be. Understand that this is going to be a new use in this area, so how do we handle all that is what's being studied, and it shouldn't be just thought of as being confined to right here, but as this whole neighborhood transitions. Thank you.
You have a question?
Alderman Lopez?
Yeah, I haven't actually received any concern by any neighbors regarding the oval parking. I frequently walk by there and I don't see cars sitting there overnight or all day or anything to that effect, because the oval itself is a deterrent. People don't want to park at the oval and then cross the street, the oval, which is pretty busy, to go to any of those businesses. My original ordinance was specifically for the ones by Rise. I forwarded a picture in requesting the ordinance, which outlined exactly what I wanted, and the legislation that was presented to me from the planning department and legal is what is before you. It's also in two different places. There's the older ordinance, which has been tabled for several meetings now, on the west side, which is adjacent to the tire place, which has its own parking lot. And then is there any reason we're on Bing now? And then on the east side is where I've been asking for the specific parking spaces. Now, I wasn't the one who said do all the way from Cedar to West Holland or to West Pearl, and I'm not married to that part of it. But I do think as an alderman who's representing constituents and responding to requests by them to do certain things, my role in this committee is to advocate for them. If we continually table everything that comes from my ward before this committee, I don't know if I have a purpose in being here.
The chair does not understand that.
I would invite the chair to count how many ordinances are currently tabled that I proposed.
The chair will answer, in all fairness, we have information from Director Cummings that is going to be a parking study. Now, I could see handling, as chairman, pushing something through Alderman Lopez if there was a 5-alarm fire issue on it. But when we're looking at a comprehensive study, particularly in this downtown area, I do caution, because looking at the whole other constituents, to do it once and to do it correctly. And I get a hint that you think that it is nothing personal or anything in nature, has more to do with the comprehensive study that's going to occur in the future, that we could take a solid, well-documented, look at what the parking issue is here. And so that's why things have been tabled, because of the pending study.
It's my impression that there's an unfair burden of proof being put on me as alderman to demonstrate and document all these things, because these are, last meeting we had no problem moving forward with a handicap parking space. This is not a handicap parking space. This is a business that just needs access to a parking space to do its daily business. We have defended not doing anything by blowing it out to include the entire downtown area, when that's not what the legislation even does.
The chair hears you, Alderman Lopez, but however, the chair, in a matter of fairness on the issue, it is the duty of the chair's opinion as prime sponsor that you are to do all the legwork. That will mean go to traffic, that would mean go to engineering and to all the different steps and come in with clean legislation so that when we come here, we can vet on the issue that has already been 100%.
Which
So
I did
that's why
forward
we
to the
did
chair
find
via
out-
email.
Excuse me, Alderman. We did find out that there was a question of east and
I'm
west.
privileged. You're making a claim against me, so I.
No,
hold my-
sir, I am
Yes,
not.
you are.
I-
You're claiming I haven't done the research, and I have the right to rebut that without any interruption, period. You just said that
you
I
will-
didn't do my due diligence. I emailed to the entire board
Alderman Lopez,
a request
you're
of
out
all those departments.
Okay, are you challenging the chair?
Yes. You just made a
Your
claim about
challenge
me.
has been noted, and unfortunately will be accepted. Thank you.
I think
Yeah.
the appropriate thing to do is retract your claim about me and my research.
May I?
Yes, you may. Something fresh here would be very appreciative.
No, I can understand how you feel, Alderman Lopez. I've got a bill that everybody hated, and I was roundly told, no, thank you. I can't see removing all restriction in those two. I really think that that would be against what you're looking for. I think other people will take those spots, and they'll stay there. I could understand changing it to the same length of time as the rest of the area. I can see the 20 minutes being acceptable. If the rest of the area has 20 and these have 20, that would be fair for everybody. And did you consider this?
Yes, and to refresh the committee's memory, the first time I brought this forward, the concern was brought up that if we put new signs in, it would be spending money, so we couldn't change the signage. By taking signs out, we're not spending any money. We're having 2 parking spaces become unregulated.
Any further comment? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, and I'm going to do this by roll call. Can the clerk please call the roll on 019-066?
Alderman at Large, Michael O'Brien.
Nay.
Alderman at Large, or Alderman Tom Lopez.
Aye.
Alderman Ernest Jettie.
No.
I'm also going to say no. That would be 3 noes and 1 yes.
Motion fails.
With respect, Mr. Chair, I have to excuse myself.
Since Alderman Lopez has left the room, do we still have a quorum?
Yes, we still have
Since we
3.
do have a quorum, we will continue with the meeting with regret of the absence of Alderman Lopez.
So may I make another motion?
Yes, you may.
May I move that we find this not, well, whatever the term is,
Well,
remove final passage. Table? I'm going to move to table this.
we can move the table. Okay, there's a motion before us. Any discussion? Excuse me, there's no discussion on the tabling of 01966. The motion is to table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Opposed? None. Okay. Motion has been tabled. We have several items that are on the table. Has anybody seen fit to bring anything off the table? Seeing none. We will now be joined with Mr. Fredette of the Tax Collector Department and looking at some delinquent tax property. Now, a word of caution as we move on into this. Some of the information Mr. Fredette will present to us But when anything gets into the personal information of the particular constituent, that may need to go into non-public session. So if that occurs, Mr. Fredette and myself, I do give you the authority to bring up, if somebody waffles into that type of, the deep end of the pool, that we will remind them that we'll need to go into,
Clicker,
non-public
that's yours.
session.
Oh.
Now, if we, yes, Alderman Dowd, hold on. If we go into non-public session, I will take that item off that agenda and move it to the end, so we can handle just the things that are in non-public. But I think most of these items can be discussed in the public hearing. Okay. Alderman Dowd?
Didn't we normally have this entire session in non-public? Treasurer Fedett?
Parts of it usually is in non-public, but the whole thing does not have to be. I mean, the fact of identifying the property, showing how much is owed, that's public information.
Right.
If you want to ask more personal questions about the property owners and things, that's usually when we go in non-public.
I was just concerned about having to go in and out of non-public.
No, and the clarification from the chair, what I stated, Alderman, it would be my intention, if that did occur, we could take that item off that particular point of the agenda and move it to the end, and then go into non-public and handle those items that have come up in that non-public. Unless it's the flavor of the board to want to handle the whole thing. I am open to the interpretation if somebody wants to make a motion to go into non-public at this particular time. Alderman Jettie?
I'm concerned, I think that we have an obligation to conduct our business in a transparent and public way as much as possible. So I would be reluctant to go completely non-public, and I think we ought to do that only when it's necessary. So I'm hoping that, I'm trusting that Treasurer Fredette will clue us in when we're,
I concur.
And I would say that I too concur. And if we waffle into that deep end, I think we'll terminate and move that particular item into when we do go in, if we have to, go into non-public at that particular time. Alderman Dow?
Just one question, if this committee decides to take action on the property, is that in non-public?
The motion, there's a motion in that packet I gave you at the end. That would be a public motion.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Fredette, welcome.
Thank you. I don't think I need this keyboard, so I'm going to move it. Hopefully. All right, thank you very much. Just to start off, usually this meeting is held in October, so I'm very late this year, and I apologize for that. But I'd like to try to get it done for this year anyways. What I have here is a list of properties that the city would like to deed, and because we vote to deed the property, doesn't mean it's going to happen in a week. It's still a couple of months away between, I have to have meetings with departments in the city to make sure there's no asbestos on the property and things like that. So it takes a while. Plus you have to give a formal notice to the owners, and they have so many days to react. So it doesn't happen immediately. And this committee would be updated through the whole process. It would be next year, but it appears that everybody right now on this committee will be here next year, so that's a good thing. And the packet I gave you was exactly what's in the PowerPoint. At the end, there is a motion of a list of properties that I asked that not be deeded at this time. The reason is most of them are on a payment plan and are making payments. And we've always done it that way. Most communities do. So that would be the motion. The properties you see here are the ones I plan to deed sometime in the future. And it's kind of a mixture of single families, a few apartment buildings, and a lot of vacant lots that just are really more of a cleanup. They've been in some families for years. They don't want them. They want the city to take them, and we will as long as we are sure that the land itself is clean. So if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I'll start off.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the first property is, actually, the first three properties is owned by the same person on Gillis Street. It's 40A, 40B, and 40C. All these people that on this sheet right now, all of them have been served. They get formal letters, informal letters, phone calls if we have their phone numbers, but they were also served formally by the National Police about this. And some of them get back to me and others don't. I've never heard from this gentleman at all, so I can't say what the problem is, except that he hasn't paid for quite a few years. And I think we should deed the property. It's 3 units on Gillis Street, like I said. I've never met the gentleman, so I can't say too much about that, but he hasn't paid since 2010. And the amount shown here, the amount due, is just the principal amount. It does not include the penalty interest that we charge. So this is just the principal for what he can be deeded for. So anyways, the first 3 properties, like I say, is all the same owner, all on Gillis Street. 17 perm and
Well,
90, oh, sorry,
Excuse me,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Fredette, do you want a vote of this being my first time going through something like this, so please bear with me. Do you want a vote on each individual property?
You don't have to vote on these. I have the right to deed unless you tell me not to.
So,
So the
okay.
motion in there is the ones I don't want deeded. These are the ones I plan to deed, if we have to do it.
Very good. Thank you for the
So,
clarification. All right.
That's how it works.
Thank you.
All right. The next 2 pieces, 17 perm and 96 Lock, are owned by the same family members. I have talked to them. Unfortunately, they don't seem to be too concerned about paying. And they're big properties, apartment buildings. So I'm not sure what the problem is, but I have talked to, I believe it was Michael who I talked to, and I've told him how serious this is, and I've heard nothing since I had that conversation with them. And he did contact me after he was served, so that usually does work, but sometimes it doesn't, so. Like I said, these are 2 big properties. Again, when I have the meetings with the city departments, we're gonna have, if we take this, we're gonna be responsible for the building and the tenants and everything else, so we have to really determine if it's the right thing for the city, but given that he hasn't paid in a long time, I think this is the right move for it. Yes,
There's a question, yes.
May I ask, are these rental units
yes,
in Perham Street
Well-
and Lock?
yes.
Do you know how many units? are
That
in-
I don't know that at the time, but they look fairly big,
Okay, thank you.
so. Yeah,
Oh, yes, Alderman Dow. Thank you.
Question, if the city takes these, does the city have a right to turn around and sell them?
yes. After a certain amount of time, yes.
Okay.
They can do basically anything they want.
And this is very good. Probably to clear up, could you explain if we do take a property, the homeowner is entitled to something if we resell the property, am I correct?
Now, the law is if we deed the property and we sell it, and there is, after the taxes are paid and penalties and all that, if there is money left over, it is returned to the former owner.
Okay.
Okay, that's the law here.
So for clarification, we only get what's entitled with the taxes and not anything to do with the value of the property. That is, still remains
Yeah,
the right of the homeowner.
right.
So we're only fixing to what this person is in the rear to us for,
Right.
meaning us being the city of Nashua, correct? All right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Should I go forward, I guess?
Continue.
All right. Okay, this is a difficult one. 300 Pine Street is a single-family cape that abuts Salmon Brook. You see, it's a big lot. They have never contacted me. They were served. I've never heard from them. I don't know them at all, but they were served, and they haven't paid in years also. They haven't paid since 2009. So I don't know what's going on there, but the yard, I can say, is if you drive by, the yard is, right now you can't see anything, it's all full of snow, but prior to the snow, the yard was not in good shape. So, anyways, that is, and that's part of Pine Street, that's right where that big curve is on Pine Street. That's where that home is. The next one is 12 Grand Ave. I believe that's a single-family home. And, I've never talked to this person, but they have made payments once in a great while when they get a letter from me, but they might make just one payment and that's it. So they haven't paid for since 2011, so they owe quite a bit. I believe it's a single family, and I think you all know where Grand Ave is. It's right near the Boys Club area. 115, 117 West Hollis Street. Rita Roy, this is the estate of, she was the owner of the property. She passed away in 2012. She has a daughter that lives in there. It's a two-family. And again, I've never heard from her. She hasn't paid in years. She has been served, so I'm not sure what the story is. But she hasn't paid for a while either. And I shouldn't keep repeating that, but none of these people have paid for a while. 19 Searles Road. This home, the original owner had passed away. Her son at one time did live in it, now lives with an uncle. The home had a pretty bad fire I don't know, back 2 years, a year and a half ago. So the home is vacant and boarded up, but the son is not interested in it at all. Anything besides that, I'd have to go non-public, but he's not interested in the property. So he has been talked to. Yes.
Okay, in this particular property, where this one is damaged by fire, so it may not have a pertinent value for a resale, except for property value. If we take it over, the city could be liable to remove a derelict structure
Yes. Yep.
with
That's
this
true.
particular property.
Yep. But I think the neighbors would like us to take it, from what I've been told.
Yep.
I'm not sure how bad the fire was itself, but I know there was, isn't that in your neighborhood?
Yes, it's in my neighborhood, and, fires are tragic,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, you like to see somebody come in and rejuvenate the structure afterwards and move on, but this has been in bad shape for quite a while, and it is a derelict building, abandoned building.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, next one. 17 Academy Drive. They're a single-family home. They once in a while make a payment when they get a letter from me, but usually, again, it's just one time, and I have actually never heard from them, but I do know if I send them a letter, they'll come in and make one payment. So they owe since 2011. 86 West Hollis Street. The next four properties are owned by the same person. They're all apartment buildings, and he hasn't paid for a lot of them for quite a long time. I did talk to him once, and he told me he was going to get back to me with some type of a plan, and I've never heard from him since. And he's been served on all these properties. So this person owns 86 West Hollis, 810 Cortland. These are all big buildings too. 68 Fulton Street and 76 Ledge Street. They're all apartments, and as far as I understand, they're all rented. So I'm not sure what's happening with the rental income, but that's not for me to question. The rest of these are kind of like just cleanup. It's a lot of vacant land that some of them have been in the family for years. I've talked to a lot of people. They don't want it. They can build on it. A lot of it is in wetlands. And they've asked me to please have the city deed the property because they don't pay the taxes because they don't want the property. So the first one is on 35 Curtis Drive. As you can see, I think that's, also part of Salmon Brook over there. It abuts. So, Mr. Gaudet, I've met more than once. He lives in a surrounding town, and he's asked me to please deed the property. He doesn't want it. I think it was his father's or something. Any questions? No. Narrows Road. This one is near, almost in Hollis, near Farley Road, if you're familiar with that area. Let me see if I can do this. This big parcel here is owned by the Audubon Society. This parcel here is owned by Nashua, the city of Nashua. And this street here is Pilgrim. And Farley is over here, Farley Street. So this is almost in Hollis, I believe. So this is the parcel. It's wet, very wet. And this person here, Terry Elton Sons, I think I actually went to school with the Sons. I can't find them anywhere. I've looked. I thought one of them lived in Amherst. I sent a letter. I never heard back, but doesn't mean it could be them. But I can't locate anybody that is responsible for the property. So they haven't paid, of course, in years. Whitney, the owner of this property owns this property right here. And of course, he owns this small stretch going down. So for some reason, he's up current with his home that he lives in, but hasn't paid for this for a long time. Actually, I'm sorry, he doesn't live in here. He lives in another town. He rents it. But he hasn't paid for this, and I have contacted him and everything else, and I've never heard from the guy. So I don't know what the story is there either, but he hasn't paid for that parcel. He may not want it. I don't know. It's just I've never heard from him. Now, these, oh,
Alderman
yes.
Jettie.
On Whitney Street there,
Yep.
is there a building on that lot?
No, there's no building on it. It's just land.
Okay.
Strange, very strange lot, but it's just land. The next one, Irene Street. This street here, I'm sorry. This street here is Lawndale. Are you all familiar with that area, which is off of East Dunstable? It's a landlocked piece of property. The woman passed away years ago. I've met her daughters. They asking me, please take it. We don't want it. It's landlocked. You can't get to it. Now, this is the property if we take, I would assume that these abutters might be interested in buying it, you know, because it would make their yards bigger, but I'm not sure. But the daughters of the lady who passed would like us to take it. Most of the girls, the daughters, don't live in New Hampshire. There's only one, I believe. They've all come to visit me more than once, so. Any questions on this?
Yes, Alderman Jettie.
Who owns the land around it?
Nashua. This is kind of Buttsfields Grove. So we own all this land here, the city of Nashua. It's a strange, I mean, years ago, there used to be all these small lots all over the city like this, and they end up in people's families forever, so. Anyways, this is another interesting one, which I think a lot of people would be interested in buying. This is by Edgewood Cemetery. And the person who used to own, the person who owned this land used to own this home right here. I don't know why this thing doesn't work, but, oh yeah, used to own this lot here, this home. And they own that. Now, this person, there's a lot of things that happen over here with the family. They no longer own that anymore. But the husband still owns, this piece is still in the husband's name, but he does not communicate. As far as I know, he might live in Florida, he might live in Arizona. But I can't get a hold of him. It's a vacant lot, but this person's interested in it. This one is, so people are interested in the property. They have called me. So, anyway.
And, yes, Alderman Dow?
Yeah, are you saying that the land behind it is Edgewood Cemetery?
No, the land behind it is the children's home. The Edgewood Cemetery is on the right of it.
Across the street,
Yes.
okay,
This is the children's home, all that land.
okay.
And, where we haven't heard from the owner, I do have a question. He's been in arrears since how long?
2007.
2007, thank you.
Yep.
Alderman Jettie?
So Peter Barnett owns a whole bunch of land on Bridge Street.
Yeah.
So when you say you can't get a hold of him, that's surprising.
Alderman Jettie?
He doesn't
May
live
I-
here.
Excuse me,
Peter Barnett does not live in
I-
Nashua.
specific name of property
No,
owners?
that's fine, sir.
Okay, I'm just concerned, that, I don't mind going to non-public when it's appropriate. I just, for caution.
I
you know.
talked to his family, and they can't even tell me where he is. So I've never talked to him. I haven't seen him in years. Nobody seems to know where he is. You have something to say on that?
Yeah, you want me to comment on it? I'd be happy to. So, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. I'm very familiar with the Peter Barnett situation. What I believe Alderman Jettie was referring to is technically a company that Peter Barnett held. It's referred to as Riverside Properties, which owns a lot of property along Bridge Street, as well as Pine Street Extension. His family, his brother in particular, has been put in charge of the company and is managing the affairs of that company while Peter technically does not actually reside here in Nashua at this time. So hopefully that provides some clarity.
Thank you.
Anyways. So that's the story of that. Any other questions on that one?
No.
This lot. The lady that owns this, lives here. And she owns this lot too. The lot she actually lives in, she does live here, she's current on her taxes. This one, she's behind, never has contacted me, has been served. So I don't know what the story is, but she doesn't pay on that parcel. This parcel, little one here, is owned by the city, and it looks like there's a building that's partially on our property and partially on hers, but these maps aren't totally accurate all the time, so I don't know. So anyways, it's a small parcel, you can't build on it or anything, but it's, she does owe money on it, so. Westland Ave, this land is around the Pennachuck Middle School. Most of these lots are owned by Pennachuck Water, but this small little one that's squared off is not. And they have not paid since 2008. The owner lives in Hollis. We have sent letters and so forth, and I've never heard anything from them.
Alderman Dow?
It's the one that we're interested in.
This is one that, yeah,
Thank you.
yes. So, again, the owner lives in Hollis, but I've never heard from her. Again, it's a small piece of land. It's all landlocked by other land, so I don't know why anybody wants it, but anyways. There's a lot of them like that. Here's another one that's, that is up by Spindlewick. Some of the land around it is owned by the city. I think there's a small parcel that's owned by Flatley. And then there's this small piece here that's owned by Alexander Maynard Revocable Trust. There are several of them in a row that's all owned by that person. I believe he passed away quite a few years ago. The deed has an attorney's name on it. I have contacted the attorney twice. He has an office right here in Nashua. I left a message with his admin once, and another time I left a voicemail for him, and he's never called me back. So I don't know why, what the story is, but I'm not sure why. Again, another piece of land, though, that's really landlocked. It's not really worth much, but, so maybe that's why. I really don't know. But there's a couple of them all owned by the same person or the person who has passed and has the same attorney on them. Here's another one. This is in the same area. The bigger parcel above it is owned by St. Joseph Hospital. The other two is the bigger lot. This lot is the city of Nashua, and this is the one that's still owned by this Alexander Maynard. They're not as old. These properties go back to like 2012, 2013, but it might have been the time that the gentleman passed. Tremont is, again, most of the land here is owned by the city of Nashua or St. Joseph, except for this square here. And actually, this lot too is also, I think, owned by that Maynard Trust, and this lot right there. And here, this one again is the Maynard Trust. I've been told that it's wetland and you really can't build on it. To me, on the map, it doesn't look that bad to me, but I'm not sure. But this is off of Kathy Drive. So this is a vacant lot here, but this is I believe there's this Maynard owns this property and this one. I believe there's a home on this one here. And then there's, of course, homes all in here. So the same story with this is I've called the attorney and I haven't got any reply back. This page here, it gives you reasons not to deed by state statute. The first one deals mostly with if the city feels there's some environmental concerns on the property. That's 8076-2. 2A is the one that has the clause that says for any other reason would be contrary to the public interest. So that's the one that we use mostly when people are actually making payments. So that's the RSA that we refer to in the motion. This is also tells you that you can investigate property if you think there's, something wrong with the land. And concerns on selling or acquiring on a mortgage. It's sometimes a little hard to sell property that's deeded to the city. People are very cautious about that, so. And 8089 is the item that Alderman O'Brien talked about earlier, where it's a notice to former owner, an opportunity for repurchase. Actually, I don't think I mentioned that, but if we have to sell a land within the first 2 years that we deed it, we have to notify the former owner, and they have so many days to respond, and they can repurchase the property. That's the law. If they don't, then we can sell it. And again, if we sell it within those 2 years and there's money left over, the money is returned to the former owner. That's how that works. And this is the motion I was talking about. So this refers to 8076-2A, and the motion is as read. I would move to notify the tax collector to refuse the tax deed and at this time on the following properties. They all have payment plans, or they're all making payments, and they all have payment plans. And some of them I have reviewed with the mayor that I felt were maybe controversial, so I wanted to make sure he was okay with it, and he was. Some of them 73 Elmont Street is for sale. I've been in contact with the attorney. There's an attorney involved with that. Um, and that's really it. These are the ones that are all making payments diligently. Some are making weekly, some are making twice a month, some are making monthly. So they're trying to get their taxes up to date. 32888, that person passed away. The property is in probate. The child of that property, well, if you want more information on that, I have to probably go in non-public. But there's a whole story behind that property too, so. But it's a nice home, and I'm sure it would sell. It's a nice street, and it's a nice home. So that's, I believe that is all I have, sir.
Alderman Dow.
So two things. One, I assume you want somebody that's on the committee to make a motion to that effect.
Yes,
So just, and the other thing is if I wanted to talk about a particular piece of property that, should we go into non-public?
probably,
Yes.
if you think it's, yeah. But this motion has to be done in
Yeah,
public.
make the motion
Either
in
at the
public.
beginning or the end, or whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody make that motion.
Alderman Dowd, is one of your questionable properties on this motion that's
No.
before us?
No.
Okay, so we could
You
move
can-
forward the
right.
motion at this particular time without objection, and then to go into non-public. Alderman Jettie.
Without a severe objection, I would prefer that we go in a non-public and talk about different properties, and then when we come out of non-public, then deal with this motion,
If
unless
that's the
you have
wish of the
some other.
committee, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Therefore, without objection, will the clerk please read the statement on the requirements of non-public?
I move that the committee go into non-public session by roll call pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, 2C, for the purpose of discussing the matters which, if discussed in public, would likely adversely affect the reputation of a person or persons not a member of this board. And roll call.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman O'Brien,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
and myself, yes.
Okay, we'll go into non-public session. That can stay on. At this particular time, I'm going to go check and to make sure that we're off camera, and then we'll shut the doors and we'll go into non-public. Okay. Oh, and let the record show we came out at 2015. That's 8:15
I have to say 20.
for the
That's fire-
non-nautical.
fire- Firemen's.
You and I knew what that was.
Uh-oh. See ya.
Yeah.
I can't find my watch. I must have left it in the men's room. Oh, well, I'll go look.
Okay, we're all set. I'm gonna call us back into order of the regular business of the Committee of Infrastructure. The time is 8:16. I'm looking for the motion on the non-public. Will the clerk please read the pending motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the committee seal the minutes of the non-public session by roll call until such time as the majority of the committee votes that the purpose of the confidentiality would no longer be served.
Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Michael O'Brien,
Yes.
Alderman Ernest Jettie. Yes. Alderman Jan Schmidt also votes yes. That would be three yes.
Okay. Also before us is another pending motion, and that is on RSA 80, semicolon 76, 11-A. Would the clerk like to,
I move to notify tax collector to refuse the tax deeding at this time on the following properties.
could
The
you
only-
please read the account numbers into the order?
Yeah, just the account numbers. that's all
Account
you-
number 30446, account number 30444, account number 2470, account number 32888, account number 44274, account number 49973, account number 22528, account number 10718, account number 12988, account number 30,962, account number 25,288, and account number 21,758.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Mr. Fredette, do we have another motion that we should bring up, or that concludes? Okay, so
The
you,
reason why you have to read it like that is when it's in the minutes that way. So when the minutes get approved by the full board, I have to keep that record that
there you go.
this was done, and this has to list every account that you do, that we
Okay.
do not deed at the moment.
Very good.
All right.
Okay, so that concludes our business with Mr. Fredette, right?
Yes, and again, I will be updating the committee next
Thank you.
January, February, March of what's going
Thank you.
on. So I don't know
Outstanding.
who will be on the committee next year, but.
Okay, I think we're on to the next part, which I'll be looking for a motion, Alderman Schmidt.
I move to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 8:18.